Congratulations on your discharge. Tonight we'll celebrate. I'll call the parents, so go buy some fancy steak and beer. You're not pregnant anymore, so no need for weird reservations.
At Tanner's words, my eyes widened, I still carrying the postpartum fatigue. I had just been discharged today and was planning to rest well, preparing for the seemingly daunting task of childcare ahead. But Tanner was being incredibly insensitive. As a father, as a husband, not even able to show consideration. If I had known he was like this, I would have never married him. I was at my limit, but I was too exhausted to do anything about it. Someone help me bring down divine punishment on this unreasonable man. That's what I wished for in my heart. My name is Christina, a 35-year-old housewife. I live with my husband Tanner. We met at a club at university. We attended the same university, and Tanner was my senior. Unfamiliar with the typical college fun, Tanner taught me various things. I began to harbor special feelings for Tanner beyond a senior-junior relationship and initiated a romantic relationship. Tanner might lack delicacy at times, but he's humorous and makes life enjoyable. I felt I could make it work with him. Convinced, I accepted his proposal. As time passed, I became pregnant with Tanner's child. Twins were diagnosed. I looked forward to a happy life with my new family. But reality was different. When I reported my 3-month pregnancy and the twins to Tanner, his unexpected response was,
"We finally have kids of our own. Oh, and you should quit your job. From now on, you need to focus on childcare. Balancing work and childcare will be difficult."
His words seemed considerate at first glance, but to me, they felt off. Unaware of how I felt, Tanner continued.
"Mom always said mothers should devote their time to their children. It's sad for the kids if their upbringing is neglected because of work."
His words made me realize something. Tanner intended to push all childcare responsibilities onto me. That's not right. Childcare should be undertaken by both parents, not just one. Tanner, you'll help me with the childcare too, right? It's impossible for me to do it alone. The doctor said it's a joint effort. With that, I tried to correct Tanner's misunderstanding. Childcare is not a task for one alone. Even if I tackled it alone, childcare would surely suffer. That's why Tanner's cooperation is necessary.
"What are you talking about? Isn't it normal for the mother to do childcare? Oh, you're not confident doing it alone because it's your first time? Then let's call Mom. She has experience in childcare and can be relied upon."
With that, Tanner reached for his mobile phone, intending to contact his mother, Catherine. No way. As if childcare wasn't going to be difficult enough, now I'd have to deal with a stranger like Catherine too? Impossible. Wait a minute. Tanner, you're not planning to participate in childcare? These are your children too. What are you going to do as their father? I hurriedly tried to stop Tanner from calling Catherine. At my words, Tanner fell silent. Then, with a single word, troublesome, he dismissed it.
"Fine, I see arguing is pointless. I won't contact Mom, but you can handle it yourself."
He then retreated back to his room. Was I wrong somewhere? Is the idea of both parents engaging in childcare strange? Without an answer, I stood frozen. What followed were truly difficult days. I seemed to be the type with severe morning sickness, battling nausea every time I saw food. Though already on maternity leave, Tanner continued working. Despite my nausea, I had to prepare his breakfast and lunch. Cooking took longer, and Tanner, oblivious to my condition, showed his displeasure.
"Lately, you're slacking too much in housework. I understand pregnancy is tough, but you shouldn't laze around. You're home, so you should at least manage the household properly."
Such reprimands from Tanner were frequent. I wanted to retort, but he had no idea how hard it was for me. Morning sickness taxed my body more than I had imagined. Unable to stand, I often spent long hours lying on the sofa. Yet I couldn't show this side to Tanner, because whenever he saw me resting, he frowned.
"You're not even greeting your husband when he returns. Living comfortably, huh? Come on, stand up now. At least take care of my suit properly. You've been too lax lately. Don't take pregnancy as an excuse to slack off,"
he said. As if the physical strain of morning sickness wasn't enough, his words brought me down further. Even when I was vomiting from nausea, Tanner carried on in the living room, utterly unconcerned. He never once showed concern for my condition. Sure, men can never become pregnant, and perhaps can't understand the pain, but still his attitude is too harsh. My resentment towards Tanner accumulated. Yet, unable to voice my feelings, I endured another day of morning sickness. The pregnancy was hellish, but the due date for the birth finally approached. The doctor said,
"It's time to be admitted soon."
So I started spending my time in the hospital room instead of at home. Being in a place where I wouldn't be scolded no matter how much I slept was mentally relieving. However, Tanner seemed utterly disinterested in me. He didn't visit once during my hospital stay. The only visitors I had were my parents and in-laws. Unlike Tanner, the in-laws seemed quite interested in the children, offering warm words like, "Take care of yourself." Though it wasn't without its pressure, their words were welcome. Given Tanner's attitude, I had assumed his parents would be the same, but to my relief, they were considerate of my well-being. It made me realize that the saying, "like father, like son," doesn't always hold true. In due course, I safely gave birth to twin girls. Both were healthy. Then at the moment of their cries, all my pent-up tension broke, and I wept loudly with them. Tanner visited once after hearing of the birth, but the only thing he said upon seeing the daughters was,
"They look like monkeys."
just one word. I was appalled that he couldn't say they're cute, or even thank you to me at such a time, but I suppressed my dismay. After a while, we were discharged from the hospital. As I laid the daughters in the baby bed, I took a moment to breathe. I knew the tumultuous days of parenting lay ahead, but for now, I was determined to rest, preparing for the demanding task to come. But then, Tanner said something outrageous.
"Congratulations on your discharge. Tonight we'll celebrate. I'll call the parents, so go buy some fancy steak and beer. You're not pregnant anymore, so no need for weird reservations."
Fancy steak and beer now? At this hour? Today was already turning to dusk, and shops would be getting busy, and I was so tired. Okay. Unable to resist Tanner's words, I could only nod. I left the house feeling lost. Tanner was not only indifferent to the children, but also lacked any consideration for a woman who had just given birth. Now I realize Tanner is the worst kind of person. Yet utterly exhausted, I couldn't muster the strength to confront him. Someone help me. Please show this unreasonable man the reality. That's all I could wish for, relying on others. Never did I expect that help would actually come. The steakhouse Tanner directed me to was packed with families, especially because it was a holiday. Every family I saw had fathers taking proper care of their children, contrasting sharply with my situation and making me feel miserable. After buying the beer Tanner always drinks, the groceries became quite bulky and heavy. A real pain for someone who had just given birth. The emotional and physical pain overlapped, bringing tears to my eyes. Yet no one offered a helping hand. Amidst this, my mobile phone started ringing loudly. It was Tanner. I knew ignoring it would probably anger him, but I just couldn't bear to hear his voice right now, so I pretended not to notice. Still, the phone kept ringing. After going to voicemail, he would call back again and again. Exasperated, I couldn't help but sigh. What does he want now? Here I am fulfilling Tanner's whims, pushing myself to the limit postpartum, and shopping. With every moment of irritation towards Tanner, I could feel my love for him cooling. Could I really continue like this? I wondered anxiously. I thought about throwing all the groceries away, but that would surely provoke a worse reaction from Tanner, so I endured and walked home. Then a message notification sounded. Apparently, he couldn't wait any longer for me to answer the phone. Resigned, I looked at the mobile phone screen and was stunned by the message.
"Where are you? Come home now. I called Mom and they're furious. Please answer the phone. They're talking about kicking me out, saying I'm disowned. It'll be a disaster if this continues."
I was shocked. The in-laws are angry? What on earth happened? Did Tanner do something to deeply offend them? Regardless, it's clear something serious is happening. I must hurry and speak to the in-laws. Forcing my aching body to move, I hastened the rest of the way home. As I opened the front door, I muttered softly, "I'm home." To my surprise, there was Tanner,
bowing deeply at a 90-degree angle. Tanner, what are you doing? What happened? Tanner is a proud man, not one to bow easily. This was the first time I'd ever seen him bow. What could the in-laws have said to make Tanner so submissive? As I raised my voice, the living room door opened and the in-laws came out. Ah, Christina, welcome home. Sorry about our son causing so much trouble. Here, don't let a woman carry heavy things. Quickly take the bags and carry them in. Catherine instructed, glaring at Tanner. Startled, Tanner let out a fearful yelp, stood up, and took all the groceries from me, carrying them into the living room with difficulty. Congratulations on your discharge. You must be tired from just giving birth. We'll take care of the rest. Just rest for now. We'll also look after the grandchildren. With that, my father-in-law, Kevin, gently ushered me forward. Led by the in-laws, the living room seemed cleaner than when I left it. Sitting on the living room sofa, guided by the in-laws, I could see Tanner hurriedly moving between the living room and kitchen, seemingly lost about where to find the dishes. Watching Tanner fumble, Catherine frowned. How do you not know where your own dishes are? Have you been leaving all the housework to Christina, even during her pregnancy? How utterly irresponsible. At Catherine's words, Tanner mumbled a feeble, sorry. Seeing him so pitiable, I couldn't help but let out a mischievous laugh. Noticing this, Tanner glared at me, which prompted Kevin to scold him. What's with that look? Even now, do you think you've done nothing wrong and Christina is to blame? I never thought you could be this unreasonable. Really, where did we go wrong raising you? Tears welled up again at the in-laws' kindness. They were scolding Tanner for my sake. Despite Tanner being their son, and me having no blood relation to them, they were on my side. I regretted not relying on Catherine earlier, thinking that we were, after all, strangers. Had I asked for help sooner, things might not have gotten this bad. I felt disgusted with myself for being so dependent on the in-laws now, after all the decisions I had made before. Catherine, Kevin, what's happening? I asked, bewildered by the situation. Until now, my relationship with the in-laws had been cordial and appropriate, neither too close nor distant. What had changed them so drastically? I sat confused. Catherine sat opposite me and explained. The in-laws had started questioning our relationship during my hospital stay for the birth. They visited often, but were puzzled never to see Tanner. Concerned, they asked the hospital nurses about his visits, and learned he hadn't showed up once, which angered them. Still, with the birth imminent, they didn't want to cause a stir that might affect the babies, so they bided their time. Then came Tanner's call. Expecting nothing good, they answered and learned of his outrageous demand for me to shop while he relaxed at home, which sent their anger over the edge. Chastised by the in-laws he had expected to be allies, Tanner was disheartened. They insisted on an apology and reflection, hence Tanner waiting and bowing at the front door. No wonder he looked so worn out. Tanner's usual arrogant demeanor was gone. He seemed thoroughly lectured by the in-laws. I doubted he'd ever take me for granted again, especially now that the in-laws were on my side. After setting up the plates, "Let's eat," Kevin said. Tanner waited tensely for my response. Despite the circumstances, it would be a waste not to enjoy the fancy steak I had bought. As I sat down, the in-laws asked, "Which would you like?" and kindly served me my portion on a small plate, making it easier for me to eat. It was truly thoughtful service. Such considerate gestures should be a husband's duty. Our son really is disappointing, Catherine lamented. As Catherine muttered those words, "I'm sorry," Tanner whispered in a low voice. It seemed he truly had nothing more to say. Seeing him like this, I felt a sense of relief. Perhaps because the in-laws had shown concern for me and given me the freedom to speak, I found the courage to voice what I had been contemplating for so long. In fact, I've been thinking of getting a divorce. I'm grateful for everything Tanner has done for me, but his attitude during my pregnancy was unforgivable. I've lost confidence that I can continue with Tanner in raising our children. These thoughts had been lingering for a long time, but I lacked the final push to articulate them. The weight of my words seemed to chill the air momentarily. "That's right." But then Kevin nodded. "Tanner is too immature as a father and a husband. I can't believe he could fulfill the duties of a father when he can't even be a proper husband. What Tanner has done is unforgivable. If Christina feels this way, I won't stop her.
The numerous thoughtless words hurled at me by Tanner left deep wounds that had not yet healed. If the in-laws hadn't been there, I probably wouldn't have been able to express my desire for a divorce. Then Catherine also nodded in agreement.
Christina, I'm sorry for all the trouble our immature son has caused you. Please, even if you divorce, continue to rely on us. We will do anything for you and the grandchildren.
Catherine said, smiling. Though Tanner might not be considered part of the family in the same way, the in-laws undoubtedly were my family. Now I can say that with confidence. However, Tanner, seemingly dissatisfied with our stance, retorted,
Hey, why are you making decisions without me? I don't approve of a divorce. They're my children, too. Are you trying to ruin my reputation with a divorce?
It seemed he still had some fight left in him despite being thoroughly chastised. When the in-laws and I glared at him, Tanner trembled but continued his unreasonable complaints.
After all, why are Mom and Dad siding with her? I'm their son. Isn't she a stranger? Shouldn't parents side with their son in times like this? Aren't we family? Why are you abandoning me?
Tanner clearly couldn't accept that the in-laws were supporting me. He must have believed that as their blood-related son, they would agree with him and support his views. To Tanner's words, I could only sigh deeply. All I wanted was a family attitude, to cherish the children and decide together to overcome the hardships ahead. Tanner failed to do any of that. Regardless of what anyone said, spending my future with Tanner as a family or as a couple was out of the question. I was certain that having such a man as a father would only bring misery to my daughters. That's why I brought up divorce. I had no intention of backing down. No matter what, my decision to divorce was unwavering. All I could think about was removing this man, insufficient as a father and husband, from my and my daughters' lives.
It's because you've been so irresponsible that things have come to this. Don't you understand yet? Your arguments are like a child throwing a tantrum. You can't act properly as a father or a husband, yet you don't want to be alone or tarnish your reputation. I've always thought this, but it's like you're a child who just grew up physically. It's hard to believe you're related to Catherine, who is so responsible.
I said everything I wanted to say in one breath. The in-laws beside me just nodded in agreement. Tanner, perhaps not expecting such words from me, stood there dumbfounded. With this, I finally managed to settle my long-standing grievances and cut off Tanner, an unnecessary person in my life. Without the help of the in-laws, this wouldn't have been possible. I truly am grateful to them. Then, as I declared, I proceeded with the divorce preparations. I decided to seek help from my parents. While they looked after my daughters, I searched for a lawyer. As expected, the divorce didn't go smoothly. Tanner threw tantrums. The in-laws were at their wits' end too. But through a lawyer and divorce mediation, Tanner finally seemed to relent, and the divorce was finalized. Though I didn't take alimony, I requested child support for the daughters. I easily obtained custody as Tanner showed no intention of parenting, no matter how many times Tanner says, "I want to see the daughters." We agreed in writing that unless the daughters themselves want to see him, they won't meet him. Tanner tried to return to the in-laws' house afterwards, but they furiously rejected him. They couldn't bear to see his face, they said. He was kicked out of the in-laws' house and now leads a lonely life. As for me, I returned to my parents' home and have been raising my daughters with their help. With the substantial child support, I'm financially secure for the future upbringing of my daughters. Occasionally, I take my daughters to visit the in-laws' house. Despite everything, they helped me a lot, and I felt it was unfair for them not to see their grandchildren. The girls have grown quite fond of the in-laws, and they get excited when I tell them we're visiting. The in-laws are smitten with them too. There will surely be challenges ahead, but with the support of my parents and the in-laws, I believe we'll be fine. The issue with Tanner was a significant event in my life, but it also served as an opportunity to find reliable allies.